Good evening, and this is Frankly Speaking Live with your host, Frank Holzhauser, and sounds kind of bassy for some reason, and my co-host, David Kanyuk.
Maybe just got some soul this week.
Yeah, I got some soul. Maybe it's my voice sounds a little raspier for some reason. I'd like to join the show. Do you have that, Maddie? Please call 515-244-0077. So that's for everyone out of state or local.
Did you have a good Amnesty Day yesterday?
Yes, it was.
Did you celebrate?
Yeah.
Did you go down to Taco John's and get yourself an extra thing of potato olays?
Yeah.
You freed the potato olays from the oppression of Taco John's.
Well, I take exception to the people who. Fallon had a guest on his show one time that made reference to the fact that the Hispanics feed us. No, they don't feed us. I'm sorry. They don't own the fields. The produce is not theirs. The fact that they're being paid to pick it is not feeding us.
Right.
So,
I mean, somebody else would have that job if they didn't have that job.
That's right.
A citizen would have that job.
And I think if Americans got hungry enough, that produce would get picked.
Right. Exactly. The way to have solved the immigration crisis was to have the IRS go after anybody who's caught with illegals on their payroll. So you pass a law that says, okay, you got illegals on your payroll, your company gets charged 75% of its profit in taxes. I guarantee you there would be a mass exodus down to the border because none of those people would have jobs because the Chamber of Commerce, big businesses would not be taking the risk.
Well, the immigrants that has been coming to the country, the stream has been slowing because our economy's been very poor. So that makes sense that we need to we need to have a verify system. I mean, when you run your credit card or whatever it is, they know instantaneously whether you got credit. That's the same thing that employers need to find out whether somebody is legal to work in this country.
Well, they kind of have those systems. They just overlook. They just turn a blind eye.
Well,
basically.
Sure.
Right. I mean, I've got to get my social security number and everything. I've got to fill out IRS forms and everything when I start a new job.
Well, it's just like the laws that we have to control our guns in the country. We don't need any new laws. We just need to enforce the laws we already have.
Right. Here's the thing. I don't think the illegal tide has slowed. It's just they're separating them out from people who are not part of the Obama-sponsored amnesty train that are coming up here. You know, remember all the buses and everything of the illegals that are coming up there. So they're separating those people out from people who are just crossing the border on their own. But there's a good question. What happens to all of those people who were brought over through that Obama program?
Well, that's
nothing's going to happen to them.
That's a good question.
Here's also a good question. So you've got amnesty for anybody who's been here for longer than 5 years. So if I've been here 3 years, does that mean if I wait another 2 years, I'm in?
Well, first off, how are they going to prove how long somebody's been here? That's the first problem.
Yeah, you can't prove that.
There's no way to prove it. And what's to stop the people who have their bags packed right now, or their rucksack, as Bear Grylls would say, what's to stop them from bolting for the border right now and saying, hey, I was there 5 years, I was there 3 years, I was there whatever.
And so for those people who have been here for 5 years or longer, oh, great, it's the niceties of what Obama was saying were just too much to bear. Oh, well, you get an easier pathway to citizenship, so you don't have to worry about being deported. So if they don't have that sort of Damocles hanging over their head, which is deportation, what's to give them an incentive to become a citizen in this country? Oh, I get to become a citizen, and then I get to get boned on all the high income taxes that we pay that I'm not paying right now.
I'll tell you what. Right now, I think that would solve the whole thing.
What's that?
I think that Congress should make a law that says we'll legalize everybody that's here illegal, but you never get the right to vote in the history of your life as long as you live in the United States. And I think the Democrats would shut the debate down tomorrow.
Well, they're not going to be able to do that because they don't have any voter ID laws. So they're just going to go off the same rules that they've been doing. I mean, that's a good idea in theory, but that wouldn't work. The answer, there's a twofold answer. Number one, they have to file articles of impeachment immediately. This is a flagrant violation of the Constitution, yet another violation of the Constitution that Barack Obama has guilty of. So they need to file articles of impeachment immediately. This cannot stand. Second, the governors of the United States of America need to issue their own proclamations saying that this is an illegal order and that the laws of the United States that are on the books will be followed. So, and that means that they're directing their law enforcement to continue deportation procedures if they catch anyone who is here illegally. So the states themselves need to assert their 10th Amendment rights of sovereignty and buck this illegal executive order that was proclamated by Obama yesterday.
The guy that just got voted into office in Texas, I believe, has come out with about the strongest. Well, I won't call them threats, but the strongest warnings to Obama that shouldn't follow through with this. So, well, I wanted to talk about something this week, and you and I have some disagreements on certain things. We have a lot of agreements. We have some disagreements on certain things. And we had a little bit of a battle royale. It seemed as though a little battle royale. And I'll just, in interest of disclosure, I've been feeling a little under the weather this week with some bouts of dizziness and eyes sensitive to light and etc. as the day goes on. And so I'll obviously admit I was feeling a little owly, and so we had a little bit of a lively debate, let's say. And so I thought I would just show you and show the audience here something a little interesting that I grew up knowing from the time I was a little kid in church school, and it has kind of fixed the way I view the world. So it's not to say that anything David says on the show is wrong or right, or what I say is wrong or right. It's just the way I view it. So, Maddie, if you'd bring that up. This is the statue that King Nebuchadnezzar, however you pronounce that, had, and when he was the king of the Babylonia Empire, and Daniel obviously interpreted this dream for him. So I go on here to write this week. Every now and then throughout history, God gave men glimpses into the future. Such was the case with Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylonia. The king had a dream that none of his kingdom's wise men or magicians could interpret, but God chose Daniel to fill that purpose. All accounts say, or some accounts say, when Daniel stood before the king, he may have been as young as 15 years old. So parents take notice of the trust God places his precious youth in your hands. But Daniel and his 3 comrades sought God in prayer, and Daniel hence revealed to the king his dream. The 4 worldwide kingdoms would exist from that point. And, of course, the king didn't know this dream, so Daniel had to interpret to him. And obviously, the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, was very impressed because he was the head of gold, And so that was quite impressive to him. But these 4 kingdoms would exist from that point, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome being the last. Europe would never again cleave one to another, as Napoleon and Hitler would rudely later find out. Iron and clay just would not mix. What was the purpose of God to reveal this insight? Well, for one, it was to show that any earthly kingdom can only be temporal at best. And 2, that God had the power to enthrone and dethrone kings, and that he is in charge despite the evil that prevails. And 3, that God does things on his timeline, not man's. And one lesson must be noted here. God sets up one and puts down another. So when he caused the USA to rise up, he chose the United States not to come up in power in Europe, the land of conquered peoples. But most important, he wanted kings to know that their reigns were of determined, proportioned, inhabited length to show us, stand for God, for your days are numbered. This was a lesson that tyrants and dictators all through history should take heed. Now, what does this say about today? No matter who the leader is, your time is ticking, and when God says your time's up, he doesn't take no for an answer. So, brethren, fear not, be anxious not, fret not. God will work it all out in his time.
How does God work it out?
By putting in leaders when he sees fit.
He works it out through people.
Yes.
That's just it. See, I don't know. The way that is worded almost sounds like just don't worry about anything. Keep your head in the sand because it's all just going to sort itself out.
Well,
and
okay,
that's kind of almost a dangerous viewpoint to have, because no, God works through people. It works through people, whether they're good people or whether they're bad people. But he works through people, and so that the fact that God is in charge does not excuse one from having a desire to be involved with earthly matters and political matters and things like that. You still have to have that mindset, because if you, as a Christian person, are not going to get involved, then you're allowing that vacuum to be filled by those forces of Lucifer.
Well,
but
go ahead.
I was going to say, why don't you outline what the debate was about?
Well,
at issue was something that you had posted about Edward Snowden.
Yes, okay.
The NSA whistleblower, saying that he was a traitor and that he should be shot. Now, I've been a little boisterous about people who I consider to be traitors on this show in the past, maybe a little bit too bombastic, I will admit at times. However, there's a difference between someone who's acting. I don't feel that Edward Snowden is acting against the best interests of the country.
Well,
Edward Snowden is a whistleblower.
Okay, here's the problem with whistleblowing, and there has to be there's got to be an arena for whistleblowers without divulging national security secrets.
Who's he going to blow the whistle to? Is he going to go blow the whistle to the NSA and say, "Hey, stop doing that"? Because that they've shown that they don't care.
Okay, let me get two things on record that I've said before I kind of get to my opinion. But real quickly, Matthew 24:6, and this is Christ himself speaking. Wars and rumors of wars, this must come to pass, but is not yet the end. So wars is a given. So, if whatever you think, false flags, whatever you think, who's starting the wars, irregardless of how a war started, God says it's a given that they're going to happen until the end of time. And then, as I've stated on the show before, 1 Thessalonians 5:3 says, the real scary part is not wars, but when the worldwide chant of peace comes out, and then sudden destruction falls upon them. When they shall say peace and safety, sudden destruction come upon them as a woman with child, and there is no escape. So, getting back to what we was debating on Snowden and Assange, Greenwald, and Bradley Manning is the people that I mentioned. Glenn Greenwald said on a C-SPAN deal that I saw on a forum that he had that Snowden had secrets that he had taken, stolen, whatever the word you want to call it, had taken secrets that involved not just NSA spying. So my issue with Snowden and these guys is Russia and China would love to have those secrets if they don't already have them. Why would you, when you signed a paper of confidentiality, a non-disclosure agreements, which he's had to have signed to get in this arena, this security arena, why would you take this stuff and allow China and Russia to have it? That's my biggest qualm with the whole thing.
Because if he stays in the U.S. under the NDAA, he could be declared an enemy combatant, stripped of his citizenship, and killed by this administration.
Okay, this has been Frankly Speaking Live with your host Frank Holzhauser and David Canuck, and we will return after the break.
Max Real Estate Concept Studios. This is Webcast One Live.
If you choose to obey the power of sin, it leads to death. If you choose to obey obedience, it leads to righteousness.
Forgiveness is just the beginning of life in Christ. God wants us to live for Him now.
And because of Jesus Christ, the gospel was preached, and you and I are blessed today because of Abraham. Did you know that? We're blessed.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places, especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
The only way we come to know the Saviorship of Jesus Christ is by bowing and acknowledging that He is Lord and King over all the earth.
Jesus Christ died on a cross, paid the penalty for our sin, and by repenting of our sin and accepting Him by faith, what He did for us, we are forgiven.
Salvation is not a combination of faith and works. Salvation is by faith alone in God.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
And we're back with Frankly Speaking Live. I'm your host, Frank Holzhauser, and my co-host, David Kanyuk, and our lovely producer, Maddie. And David has a new impression, but I don't think he wants to do it on air.
Not on air. No, we're good.
We're good to go.
We did the Mac impersonation last week. We're fine. On Webcast One, live.
Live. Okay. And if you'd like to join the show, be sure and call 515-244-0077. 0077.
So we were talking about an arena in which somebody could divulge illegal activities that are going on. How
Yeah.
can he properly do this? Well, when you have a tyrannical administration that has signed in this thing called the National Defense Authorization Act, which says that anybody that they want to can be declared an enemy combatant, even in America, and then the State Department, the president, can have them killed. And it was very telling, and this gets into more conspiratorial stuff, but it's very telling that on the day that that went into effect, May 1st of 2012, there was somebody who said he was going to release a previously unknown nugget of information about our dear communist leader, Barack Obama, that would probably reshape the 2012 elections. And that very day where he was supposed to release that information, he mysteriously died. Suddenly just up and died.
Who was that?
That was Andrew Breitbart.
Okay,
Yeah. He suddenly dies on the day that the NDAA goes into effect. It's ruled a heart attack without any autopsy being done. I mean, it's just initially heart attack, then there's an autopsy later on, and the coroner mysteriously dies. So just some interesting circumstances right there.
I know there. I mean, if anybody has a chance sometime, read the death list around Bill Clinton that Jennifer Flowers has put together. And it's quite shocking. There's hundreds of people on the list with so-called committed suicides and all kinds of things.
Yeah, people who suicide themselves in the back of the head with a shotgun.
And they just happened to fall on a railroad track, and it was called natural causes.
Right.
You know, I agree.
Let me ask you this. Let's say you go to work for a company. You sign an agreement that says you're not going to release the company's secrets. You're not going to talk about anything the company does.
Not going to do their secret sauce.
Right. You come to find out the company is basically. You find out the company is
corrupt.
Maybe they're doing slave labor. Maybe they're killing somebody. Maybe they're raping somebody. I don't know. You find out the company is corrupt. So you go out there. You can't really confront the company about it because you're afraid for your own life. So you have to go out to the press and say, hey, this company is doing this. Suddenly, you're branded as a traitor by that company for divulging company secrets. So the issue isn't, oh, look at what this company is doing. It's, oh, look at this guy divulging company secrets. And that's what Edward Snowden has done.
I agree with you to a point. There has to be some arena. If we're going to have these covert operations, there has to be some arena for whistleblowers to come forward. But here's the problem that I have with Snowden.
It's called the First Amendment. That's the arena.
Here's the problem I got with Snowden. Was he that naive to think that our government is only going to keep good secrets? I mean, the fact that we got a secret is a pretty good indication that a lot of them aren't going to be good secrets.
There's a difference between keeping secrets, though, which I'm all for keeping, and divulging criminal activity that is going on. Collection of metadata, listening into our phone calls, keystroke recognition, and all of that stuff that has been revealed are direct violations of the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution.
Well, as I told you, my father in 1960s told me to be careful what I said on a landline, because in them days, J. Edgar Hoover, there was 280 million people in the country, and J. Edgar Hoover said he had, I think, files on 200 million of them and was closing in on the other 80 million.
And does that make J. Edgar Hoover any more right?
No, but what it I'm not saying it to justify it. I'm just simply saying it's naive for anybody to think that we're not being spied on. I mean, that comes as no shock to me. Now, maybe the methods of what they're doing may be a new revelation. But I readily accept when I get on this Facebook, I readily accept that I'm putting stuff out there. I mean, it's a little bit of buyer beware. You know, if there's certain things you don't want to know. Now, if somebody is using your cell phone as a microphone to tap into a private conversation, now that's an issue.
And that's what the NSA is doing. They're collecting all these pieces of data. And then when you have a government that, there was a report that was released back in 2009. This was leaked from the Missouri Information Analysis Center. It's called the MIAC report. There are fusion centers in every state in the union, so this went out to all the states. But this was a report stating that the government views Ron Paul supporters, Chuck Baldwin supporters, Bob Barr supporters, anti-abortion activists, constitutionalists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, as potential terrorists. So they're classifying you, they're classifying me as terrorists and giving themselves justification to listen in on our conversations and act against us. Now, we're not acting against the government, but the government is acting against us. And that's a violation of the rights that have been guaranteed in our Constitution. The Fourth Amendment of the Constitution says that the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So if they are suspecting us of terrorist activity, if they have probable cause, if they have an oath and get a warrant, that's one thing. They have to have that probable cause. But just to go and listen ad hoc without any restraint whatsoever is illegal.
Well, let me ask you a question, just a hypothetical. I'm just going to make some, I was kind of mulling something like this over last night, but let me just make up this really absurd hypothetical type thing. Let's say there's somebody on the streets of New York, and he has an envelope in his back pocket that contains the most deadly virus known to man, that it's inside that envelope. As soon as he takes that envelope out of his pocket and opens that envelope, it's all over in New York and is going to spread nationwide. You would be the type of person, I've heard Jesse the Body the Ventura, other people say the same thing, that they don't want to sacrifice any liberty in the name of safety because they feel like that is going to devolve into a slippery slope down into no liberty. And I will even agree with that to a point. But what would you do in that case? My opinion would be, for the sake of the safety of the country, I'm sorry, but in this one instance, we're going to stop and frisk and check every individual that we find until we find that envelope.
Well, you're acting on an actionable piece of intelligence that says that there's somebody with an envelope with a virus that's going to be released. So that is probable cause.
Okay, I'll
probable
agree
cause.
with that.
So you do have that right in that instance to go and try and search out. The difference is what the NSA is doing is they're just searching anybody, looking for any envelope for any crime whatsoever, just to try and open that envelope and see if there's anything inside. That is illegal under the Constitution. So the people who are going and doing that frisking, those are the people who are the traitors, not Edward Snowden.
So can we agree on one point that even Chuck Schumer, as radical as he is at times, I've heard him make this point, that the president in those type of Jack Bauer 24/7 situations where somebody has something, the president does have to have a certain amount of liberty to, in an emergency, actionable intelligence situation, stop something like that.
In an emergency situation, correct. But what they're doing is not in an emergency situation.
I'm not saying what we were talking about previously as an emergency. I'm just saying, can we come to some agreement that in an envelope type situation or a nuclear warhead type situation, something that the president would have to have the authority to act almost instantaneously without going to some courts, a FISA court or whatever, on actionable intelligence to stop a near.
We do have that common ground, and that's laid out in the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, which the NSA is violating. And if they're violating that tenet of the Constitution, that makes those people, Michael Hayden, Keith Alexander, those people are the traitors, not Edward Snowden, who all he did was say, hey, look, they're stopping and frisking everybody without any probable cause. They're violating your privacy.
Okay.
They're potentially blackmailing people with this.
But what would you do in the case now that according to Greenwald, these is his own words, these aren't mine, I'm not making these up, that he has national security secrets that doesn't involve the NSA. What do you do about Snowden in that instance?
I don't know what you would do about Snowden in that instance. What I would do is clean up the NSA first and foremost, so we create an environment where we can bring Edward Snowden back without him fearing for his life.
Well, obviously,
I would prosecute the people that we know have committed treason.
Obviously, I think you would also agree that whatever information he's got, we don't want in the hands of Russia or China.
I'm not worried about Russia and China. The likelihood that Russia and China are going to just one day decide to snap their fingers on intelligence that Edward Snowden brought them about what we're doing inside our own country and come after us is not very likely. What I'm worried about right now is what's happening in our own backyard, and we can't really worry about what's happening in other people's backyards and what threats are outside if we're crumbling from within. If we don't have a free republic that's worth defending, then what does it matter what Russia and China have?
Yeah. Well, I was just reading a message, that somebody had sent on Facebook. The other thing that I wanted to mention, I'm not a person who, I was a person in school who enjoyed history. I studied all the wars that we had in our history of our country. A lot of the other wars, the biblical wars and et cetera. And I'm the most comfortable I guess, the most knowledgeable talking about World War II and the Civil War, although I know a little of Vietnam, and I know some other things about some other wars. But ever since World War II, I would say, as per example, we've talked about the vast military-industrial complex. I would say since World War II, when FDR was put into office, the unemployment rate was roughly 25%. In his first couple of years, he took that unemployment down to about 14%. It sprung back up to 17%, but by the time we went into World War II and come out of World War II, the unemployment in this country had went from 17% to 2%, so almost non-existent. I don't advocate necessarily that war is going to bring prosperity, but in that given situation it did. But I would say ever since World War II, our foreign policy has been based basically on three things: oil, Israel, and the spread of communism. Where we were in the Cold War situation, now we can argue about World War II, and I'm in total agreement with you. As my grandpa said, 20 years ago, that when we got done kicking the Germans' butt, we should have went right into Stalingrad and kicked the Russians' butt. We let them get away with way too much of the German scientists. We let them get away with things that they should never have gotten. So if we would have done something about that, we might not be fighting with Russia right now.
The difference between, and I agree, the war economy definitely helped us get out of the Depression. The difference between that war economy and this endless war economy that we have right now is that we had manufacturing here, and the manufacturing is all gone now to foreign powers.
All right. Well, we'll be back to discuss this after the top of the hour break. This has been Frankly Speaking Live with your host, Frank Holzhauser, and my co-host, David Kaniuk.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
And we're back with Frankly Speaking Live. I'm your host, Frank Holzhauser, and my co-host, David Kaniuk, and the lovely and wonderful Maddie producing. I want to get on here to what's going on in Ferguson. I wasn't, staying right on top of if that grand jury had made a decision yet or not. But I just wanted to just touch a final point on what I started to mention on our foreign policy strategies, what it seems to evolve to since at least World War II, in my estimation. We're in these foreign countries, and I don't think there's any shame to have blood for oil. That's just me. Now, maybe some other people might take exception to that. But our national security interest, whether Ed Fallon likes it or not, is fossil fuel and oil, natural gas, et cetera, et cetera. Then the other hotbed issue over there in the Mideast is Israel and our relationship with Israel. And I suppose they feel like it's an unfair relationship. And then obviously our desire to checkmate or try to checkmate the spread of communism after World War II, which we knew as the Cold War. Now, I'm not trying to excuse any of our foreign policies and what the CIA is up to and some of these spy agencies and the stuff that kind of might potentially create these false flag operations or what have you. But can we agree at least that we're in these countries for a reason, and we're in it for fossil fuel. We make friends with some despots and some dictators and some less than desirable people. Sometimes we get caught in a situation where we make the choices of the better of two evils, like the situation in Egypt. Mubarak was a criminal and a despot, but he's a better person than the Muslim Brotherhood or whatever we got in there now. Same with Assad in Syria, same with Saddam Hussein, same with Gaddafi.
Well, I think the problem is that we continuously we don't learn from our mistakes. Yeah, Mubarak wasn't a great guy, but he's better than having the Muslim Brotherhood in there. You're right. Assad is not, the greatest of person. I'm not somebody who champions Assad, but I certainly would rather have Assad in there than have, radical jihadists called ISIS in there. My deal is, why are we trying to fund these radical groups to go in there and bring down Assad? Why did we fund the Muslim Brotherhood and then tout it as a great victory for democracy when Mubarak went down, and then subsequently when the Muslim Brotherhood and Morsi was brought down on July 4th, 2013, in the largest political demonstration in the history of the world, we said absolutely nothing. I thought that was very telling. Why don't we learn from these mistakes? That's my question. If we had a non-meddling foreign policy, then perhaps we wouldn't get into all these jams that we seem to be getting into.
That's part of the problem. How do you have this non-meddling foreign policy when you're over there in their land? They
then get out.
How are you going to get the fuel out? How are you going to get the fossil fuel out? It's our technology.
Trade. If we still had manufacturing, we probably have better sources of energy than oil right now, but we're staying beholden to oil because of deals that we worked out through Nixon, Kissinger, and George H.W. Bush with the Saudi government back in the 1960s.
But it's our technical advisors. It's our equipment. It's our drilling techniques. It's the stuff that we provide that helps get the fossil fuel out of the ground. Left to themselves, I don't know that they can do it. But the point is, how do you have a footprint over there without meddling? I mean, it's almost like an oxymoron.
Free trade, capitalism. That's how. You don't have to go and screw around with their governments. take down the leadership in Iran and put in, the Shah of Iran, which then causes resentment and leads to the Ayatollah, etc.
Okay, what if we don't do anything, no meddling, except just for our footprint getting the oil? There's still Muslims over there that take exception to us being on quote-unquote holy land or whatever. I mean, I don't know that there's a solution to that problem.
The Saudis don't seem to take exception to it. Money talks. That's the thing.
But there's a certain... Yes, I agree with you. I concede that point. But there's some people that like Ed Fallon, I don't think there's anything since the Industrial Revolution in 1830 that this guy's liked. I mean, in other words, there's people that would like to take us back to the Stone Age.
And those people are doofuses. I agree.
And there's a lot of these hardcore Islamists, Muslims, that...
and those people
Sharia law.
Right, and that's very true. And those people are doofuses as well. The problem is by continuing on with our imperialistic footprint, that is just radicalizing more of them to hate us. If you didn't have that footprint, if you approach them without meddling, if you approach them with friendship and free trade and everything, and I'm talking about the good free trade where we're actually exchanging goods and services and helping build our manufacturing base. If you actually had that, a free economy instead of the planned economy that we have in the world right now, you probably wouldn't have the rise of these Islamic jihadists because they wouldn't have anything to be really that ticked off about.
Well, and then here's this second thing, and I mean, I don't want to extend this too terribly long, but we then got this sticky topic and sticky situation with Israel. And we know that these guys are mortal enemies from the David and Goliath story. Palestine equals Philistine. And these two are at natural enmity with one another. And the Arabs kind of side in with Palestine. The U.S. sides in with Israel. So there's this contentious thing going on. And a lot of our national security, a lot of our foreign policy is built around protection of Israel.
And I understand that. I think that there is a solution to that. I don't have quite my finger on what that solution would be right off the bat there, but I think there are better ways than... It just seems like we're repeating the same old mistakes. I mean, isn't the very definition of insanity repeating the same actions over and over and over again and expecting a different result?
Yes,
that's what our foreign policy is.
I understand. I agree with you, and I understand what you're saying. But the problem of it is we get in these situations, and we get caught between a rock and a hard place because we don't really want to, per se.
So why would you want to continue on that same course?
You've got to have the oil.
You can still have the oil, just don't have the imperialism. Free trade, you will have the oil.
Okay,
friendship, you will have the oil.
We'll continue this conversation because.
Well, can I bring it back to an original point about Snowden?
Go ahead.
You had a nice graphic and everything on the screen trying to explain what you believe in, and I just want to bring this back to end times as well.
Okay.
We both agree that there will be an end times kingdom. There will be the Antichrist on earth. There will be a one world government that is going to come about from all of this. The reason that you should be concerned about the NSA spying on you internally is because that's part of that beast system. You see, this gets into, I think, a larger thing that we don't really have time to, but everyone views the devil and God as opposites, right? They're on opposite ends of the spectrum. What people don't seem to realize and understand is that God and Lucifer are not polar opposites. The devil is not equal to God on the opposite end of the spectrum. God is all-powerful. God can create from a snap of his fingers. He can create. The devil cannot do that. The devil can only tear down, but he does not have the ability to create like God does.
All right.
So in order to come onto the earth as God, he has to be able to build himself as a counterfeit kingdom.
Yeah.
He has to be able to present himself as God, but he can't do it in the way that God would be able to. He has to counterfeit all of God's powers, basically.
I made this point that God doesn't have this luxury, but Satan can use any recipe of truth and fiction that he wants. He can use 99% false and 1 drop of truth.
And here's where we're coming into the point here. Lucifer is going to do this through various technologies. He's going to create his one world totalitarian system through things like the NSA spying, through things like the all-powerful, all-seeing Google hive mind that's being developed, transhumanism especially, which is the merging of man and machine, and that goes into a much larger topic, which we should devote an entire show on. So that, in a nutshell, and that's a very, very basic glossing over of why this is important, is because this technology is part of the setup for that Antichrist kingdom.
Well, as I started to say, he can use 99 drops of falsehood, 1 drop of truth, or he can use 99 drops of truth and 1 drop of false.
Right.
Whatever the combination to suit his purpose, God doesn't have that luxury because God has to be 100%.
And it's up to us to continue that fight against evil. Matthew 24 is very interesting because the disciples come to Jesus and they ask him, when are you going to come back? What are the signs that how do we know when you're coming back? And it's very interesting because Jesus doesn't give an exact date. He doesn't give an exact time. He says, I don't even know when I'm coming back. Think about that for a second. He says, I don't even know when I'm coming back.
Well, that's him on earth.
He says, no one knows but the Father in heaven.
Right. But
here's the
Christ
point.
on earth.
Here's the point.
That,
here's the
right?
point that I'm getting to. He goes on to lay out the series of conditions that we will see before he does come back. So he's saying, I don't know when I'm coming back, but when you see all this stuff go down, that's the sign that I'm coming back. So this leads to an idea that I've had. Maybe there is no specific date that is set. Maybe we can get a reprieve. Because if enough people are still living righteously, enough people still follow God and don't let this evil take over, then there's no need for Jesus to come back at that point.
But here's the point that I want to make with you. I guess this is the main, where did I write that down? Here, 1 Thessalonians talks about 5:3. When they say peace and safety, sudden destruction will come upon them. So what I'm saying is, that peace is going to be the ecumenical movement that is going to want to draw these Protestant faiths back to the motherland, the mother church.
The Catholic Church. And we're seeing that happen right now. That's one of the conditions.
All right. We'll pick this up after the break. This has been Frankly Speaking Live with your host, Frank Holzhauser, and my co-host, David Kaniuk.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
Metropolis on everywhere. Metropolis on everywhere. See them here, see them there. You got bad credit? We don't care. Metropolis on everywhere. Metropolis on everywhere.
Visit emetroford.com for your guaranteed credit approval. Good credit, bad credit, no credit. Everybody drives with guaranteed credit approval at emetroford.com.
Metropolis on everywhere.
Visit emetroford.com today.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
And we're back with Frankly Speaking Live. I'm your host, Frank Holzhauser, and my co-host, David Kaniuk, and Maddie producing. You had kind of a wrap-up point that you wanted to kind of wrap up and culminate some of the stuff we've been talking about tonight. And
yeah, there was an article that came out yesterday. This was Pastor Chuck Baldwin out in Montana. And I thought this was just really pertinent to some of the conversations that we had been having and over the past few weeks on the show about the left-right paradigm and what we've been talking about with Edward Snowden and everything like that. It might be a little bit, it's got a controversial title, especially coming from a pastor. So indulge me for a moment while I read this article. It's entitled, How Christians and Conservatives Are Helping to Destroy America. Told you it'd be controversial.
Yeah.
What makes America America? What distinguishes this country from the nations of the world or from world history for that matter? Even casual historians must admit that there has never been a country like the United States of America ever to exist. This nation is unique to world history. There has never been a country like this and probably never will be one like it again. As hard as it is for the anti-God types to admit, America has a deeply rooted Christian history and culture. However, when one says America is a Christian country, usually spoken by a Christian, of course, he or she may mean something that never existed. So let's set the record straight. America was never founded as a theocracy. And even though there are some well-meaning, albeit naive Christian people today who pretend that America once had and should have again a theocratic type of government and society, the fact is America was never a theocracy. The only theocracy in the history of the world was the Old Testament Israel under Moses. After the death of Moses, God expected Israel to be governed by the principles established through Moses. Even the reign of Israel's greatest king, King David, could not be classified as a theocracy. He, too, was expected to adhere to the tenets and principles of Moses. Only through Moses did God directly govern the people, and even within the government of Israel, God established the roots of what became known as republican government. But I will just save that discussion for a later day. So if by Christian nation people mean that America was established as some sort of theocracy, they are gravely mistaken. It is also unfortunate that some well-meaning, at least I think they are well-meaning, Christian people give the unchurched world the impression that they are trying to create some sort of theocracy in America today. Some even go so far as to teach that we don't need a constitution or state and municipal laws, and any such laws are themselves evil. This is an asinine philosophy, to say the least. I, for one, would never want a so-called theocracy administered by the likes of the vast majority of Christian teachers and pastors today. Are you kidding? Most of them can't even govern a small congregation of believers who are ostensibly assembled under the same ideology, the same eschatology, same ecclesiology, etc. Have you been to a church business meeting lately? You really want those people dictating national laws? God forbid. There is no Moses on the scene today with new revelation dictating God's will for the nation. That being said, there is no mistaking the fact that America has a deeply rooted, rich Christian tradition. America's founders, even those who were not professing Christians as we understand the term today, acknowledged that fact. Benjamin Franklin wrote a pamphlet called Information to Those Who Would Remove to America. It was intended to be a guide for Europeans who were thinking about relocating to this country. In it, he said, quote, hence bad examples to youth are more rare in America, which must be comfortable consideration to parents. To this may be truly added that serious religion under its various denominations is not only tolerated, but respected and practiced. Franklin continued, atheism is unknown there. Infidelity rare and secret, so that persons may live to a great age in that country without having their piety shocked by meeting with either an atheist or an infidel. He went on, saying that the divine being seems to have manifested his approbation of the mutual forbearance and kindness with which the different sects, meaning Christian denominations, treat each other, by the remarkable prosperity with which he has been pleased to favor the whole country. Noah Webster, himself an outspoken Christian, said the religion which has introduced civil liberty is the religion of Christ and his apostles, which enjoins humility, piety, and benevolence, which acknowledges in every person a brother or a sister and a citizen with equal rights. This is genuine Christianity, and to this we owe our free constitutions of government. Webster also said that when you become entitled to exercise the right of voting for public officers, let it be impressed on your mind that God commands you to choose for rulers just men, not just men, but just men who will rule in the fear of God. The preservation of a Republican government depends on the faithful discharge of this duty. Notice Webster did not say that we should vote for Christians. He said we should vote for just men who will rule in the fear of God. This is the correct model set forth in both natural and revealed law. Today, most Christians have never been taught this rudimentary truism. Daniel Webster also noted the following, saying, "Finally, let us not forget that the religious character of our origin. Our fathers were brought hither by their high veneration for the Christian religion. They journeyed by its light and labored in its hope. They sought to incorporate its principles with the elements of their society and to diffuse its influence through all their institutions, civil, political, or literary. There is the correct understanding of America as a Christian nation. America's founders never thought they were creating a theocracy, but they did have a high veneration for the Christian faith and sought to incorporate its principles into American government. The principles of the Christian faith included both natural and revealed law. The Declaration of Independence and Bill of Rights especially clearly illustrate the founders' understanding and appreciation for these principles. The Declaration begins, "When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitled them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the cause which impelled them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." As Thomas Jefferson quickly penned the Declaration, he was borrowing heavily from John Locke and the commonly understood principles of natural law. Though the founders were dissimilar in regards to their understanding of biblical teaching, to a man they understood and agreed with the self-evident principles of natural law or the laws of nature. Furthermore, virtually every right enumerated in the Bill of Rights can be traced directly to commonly understood principles contained in natural and revealed law. That fact is unassailable. In addition to our common Christian heritage, America was united with a common language along with our common culture and history. The loss of our Christian heritage, our common language, along with our common culture and history, would certainly transform America into something other than America. Unfortunately, however, there are those who share our common faith and history who are also contributing mightily to the destruction of America. I'm talking about those who would identify themselves as Christians and or conservatives. Of course, to hear these people talk, America's problems are all caused by liberals or Democrats. They would also single out drug dealers, except they always seem to leave out certain politicians who are the true drug lords in America, pornographers, Hollywood entertainers, and similar sorts as being the cause of America's destruction. There is absolutely no question that a national breakdown of morality is seriously problematic to the survival of a free republic. No doubt about it. My only contention on this point is that groups mentioned above are not the true problem. They are symptomatic of the true problem. The real problem is the church. A soft, uncommitted, carnal, materialistic, lazy, and self-righteous church is the root cause of all of America's problems, including the ones mentioned above. And it goes on and on. We don't have the time to get through all of it, so I apologize for kind of bogarting that last subject.
That's fine.
But I feel very strongly that you should go to chuckbaldwinlive.com and read through the entire article, because it does tie in to what we're seeing today. These assaults against our Constitution, which was founded on Christian principles, the assault against our heritage with the amnesty and everything. These are all assaults on America and all assaults upon the principles that were outlined, the principles of God that were outlined in the Constitution.
Well, we will pick up on this conversation next week because we still have plenty of ammo, and This has been Frankly Speaking Live with your host, Frank Holzhauser, and David Kaniuk, my co-host, and Maddie producing. And we will see you next week
on Webcast One Live.